Hey everybody, welcome to Jacob's Quest, and tonight I just finished watching Ahsoka episode 4, and I'm so happy with this show right now. They've done it again. I can't believe it. Wow. Just in case you can't tell, I'm really happy right now. And this episode had everything going for it, and they accomplished everything. And even with all the nonsense of the Merrick thing, which really I think was really just like a YouTube and Twitter issue, where like fans were obsessed with this Merrick character and they had all the Star Killer expectations, and I made my video on it, so I'm not gonna go fully into it. But even at the last minute there was some speculation that, oh, Merrick has been leaked online, it's just going to be like a smoke guy, right? And obviously full spoilers, yes, Merrick was just a smoke guy. So they land on the planet, of course, like at the end of the last episode. Sabine and Ahsoka are going off, and they're going to try to stop these people from using the map to coordinate the hyperspace coordinates to make the jump. And the whole episode, we essentially have this meter, going down to when the bad guys will be able to make this hyperspace jump to the next galaxy. And so you have Merrick and Shin Hati out there in the forest trying to slow down Sabine and Ahsoka. That way Balin can stay by the map and protect it when, of course, Ahsoka eventually gets there. But in the meanwhile, Ahsoka is fighting Merrick in the forest, and he gets slashed like sideways, and he kind of just explodes. I would say it's more like an ash debris type stuff, like from a volcano. He just kind of explodes with like this ash. And that's all we really know. We don't know anything about it. He kind of deflates and he's just like a bunch of ash. I don't really understand it. I don't it is very similar to the Tales of the Jedi Inquisitor, where in that version his helmet just like deflates like a balloon, and we don't understand what species he's supposed to be, or if he was some kind of weird possessed armor or something. It's very unclear exactly what's going on there, and none of the characters explain it, but they do it, and none of them seem shocked, so they must know something that we don't know. But yes, Merrick was just a bunch of like ash and smoke and stuff, and now he's gone. So it feels so funny in hindsight that like so much attention was focused on this Merrick thing, when this episode delivered so much more than that. Anyways, so yes, we have Sabine fighting Shin in the forest, and she's using her blasters at first like a Mandalorian, and then she's pulling out the lightsaber, and they're fighting, and she's doing okay, but she gets overwhelmed pretty quickly. And we have that moment from the trailer where she tries to do a force push, and you think for a second maybe it happens, and it was such a good setup because Shin's like, oh, you have no power, you can't do this, and then she and then Sabine just lowers her wrist, and her wrist rockets fire at her, and it was like, oh my god, that was such a good like fake out, like to be like, oh, I can't do a force push, I still have Mandalorian armor on, I can still do this, so that was like such a genius, like I never even occurred to me that she could just do that. So that was pretty awesome. And then of course basically you have Shin get to the little map place first. Ahsoka and Balin are fighting it out, and they're talking to each other, and they're like, oh, Anakin talked a lot about you, kind of reminding the audience who may have forgotten at this point that Anakin's involved, because that'll be important in a second. And so they're fighting with each other, and Ahsoka grabs the map, but of course it was still being like used by the witch magic, so it burns her hand, and she's like over the precipice of this mountain, and Sabine's there, and she's like, Sabine, destroy the map, shoot it now. And earlier they had this conversation where like, we might end up having to make a hard choice where it's like, no matter what, we cannot let the bad guys use this map, because that means Thrawn will come back to our galaxy and start another war. We can't let that happen, even if that means we lose our chance to find Ezra, so it's like you have to make the right decision. You have to stop Thrawn no matter what, and that means destroying that map if we can't stop them some other way. So she's telling Sabine, destroy the map, do it now. and Sabine refuses. Sabine's like holding it at gunpoint, but Baylan knows like she's not gonna do it. I can sense her doubt, and so he slashes at Ahsoka, and she's guarding the slash. I watched it. She did not get hit by the lightsaber. She still blocked it, but the force of the block pushed her off the edge of the mountain, so she's gone off the cliff. And Baylan does the Darth Vader tempt, like, join me, come with me, I'll find your friend. Well, you know, no harm will come to you. You can join my side, and everything you want is the same thing I want. You want to find your friend, I want to find Thrawn. We're trying to go to the same place. Just give me the map. And she does it, and you're like, no, Sabine, no. And Shin Hati was knocked unconscious earlier by Ahsoka, and so Shin comes back and starts choking Sabine. So obviously they have like that continuing rivalry. So even though, you know, Baylan has to be like, hey Shin, I promised her she wasn't gonna get hurt, she's gonna come with us. You know, they still put her in the handcuffs. Probably a smart idea. They still put her in the handcuffs, but they're gonna take her with them now. So Sabine's with them, and the countdown to like read the map is going all the way full. And meanwhile, Hera and Carson Teva are there. You know, good old Carson Teva really is like the oh my god, Coulson from the Avengers. Do you remember phase 1 of the Avengers, how Agent Coulson was like in every single one of the Avengers movies, and then he dies in the Avengers, and he was like this thing that kind of tied all the movies together? Coulson's kind of like that. And so not Coulson, sorry, Carson Teva is kind of like that. And so I was scared that he was gonna get killed. I was like, oh no, he's been in the Mandalorian and the Boba Fett and like all this stuff, right? I was so scared that this is where he dies, you know. Luckily he's still alive, and obviously Hera and her son Jason are still alive too. Like, you know, no one ever thought they were gonna die. Plus, we've seen the Ghost in The Rise of Skywalker, so we know the Ghost of the ship is going to be fine, so they're fine. But the thing takes off, and a couple X-Wings crash into each other, so it's gone. Sabine's gone, Baylan and Shin are gone. They have gone to the next galaxy. They're out of here, and I'm assuming we will see some of that next episode. Meanwhile, of course, they have to come down, and they're probably going to try to find Ahsoka, but Ahsoka, meanwhile, because you have Hu Yang is called Hera and is like, hey, we're here on the planet, come help us. And so they finally arrived. And Jason, by the way, Jason gives this good moment where he's like, I have a bad feeling. So like, Jason of course is already sensing the Force. He's already like, they escaped through hyperspace, I have a bad feeling. So like, bad things are gonna come from this. I can already sense it, you know. So that was a cool little nice touch, you know, just a reminder like, oh, he didn't say the phrase I have a bad feeling about this, but he really, like, in a more serious, genuine way, like, no, I got the Force, I can feel it, like, I'm getting bad vibes now. Anyway, so Hu Yang can't find Ahsoka, and of course we look over the cliff, and at first you see some like weird blue fluttery stuff coming through the water, and you're like, what's happening? Did Ahsoka wash up on the rocks, or is Ahsoka like, did she get taken by like a whale or something? Like, what's going on? Like, I thought maybe one of the Purgle had picked her up somehow. I didn't know what was gonna happen. And then it closes up on Ahsoka, and it's revealed like, no, she's not in the water. She's in the world between worlds. And she wakes up and she starts hearing Anakin's voice. And I was so certain, and I'm sure everyone else was too, that when you hear Anakin's voice, it's going to be just like how it was in Rebels, where you hear all these voices, but they're coming through these circular portals, right? I thought we were going to see a portal open already, that Anakin was going to be in there, you know, and so Ahsoka would be able to just like watch him through the portal like a TV screen, you know. But no, that's not what's happening. Anakin's in the world between worlds with her, right behind her, and it's, you know, I think they de-aged him pretty well. It looks like they kind of fixed him up a little bit with some CG. But it is episode 3 Anakin, and he's not in blue Force Ghost form. Because, you know, I'm assuming that it works differently here in the world between worlds. I assume that when you're here, you're not all blue and glowy, you just look normal, you know. So maybe all the Force spirits would just look normal here. I don't know, you know. Obviously it's all still very mysterious how this place works, but, you know, it was rumored forever that we were gonna get the world between worlds in this show, right? And I never really doubted that, because it seemed obvious that they were kind of going in that direction. So it's like, yeah, it'll happen somehow, some way, right? But I didn't think they were gonna like change how it's used, you know. Like I was so sure Anakin was just gonna be in a portal You know, she was gonna walk up to, like, just like in Rebels, she was gonna walk up to a circle and see Anakin through there, and she'd be like, oh yeah, I remember that memory, and we were gonna see like a bunch of flashbacks or something, but it looks like she's gonna just be talking to him like he's right here. So I don't know what this means. Do the Force spirits just hang out in the world between worlds when they're not out there visiting real people? In fact, is that why the Force spirits only seem to appear at certain times? Do they go through a portal in the world between worlds? Is that how they get to the world? How do I have so many questions. Like, how does this work now? But yeah, and that's how the episode ends. And so with all of this, with everything that happened, they made the jump. Sabine was tempted kind of by the dark side, I guess you could call it. It was essentially a temptation of the dark side moment. Sabine is gone with them. She's a prisoner / willing companion / prisoner. And you know, Jason and Hera are here, and they have a bad feeling, and something's going on. And now Ahsoka's talking with Anakin, not as a Force ghost, just Anakin. He's just sitting here. And it's so funny now. Like, we were so concentrated on Merrick. Who's Merrick? Who's the Inquisitor Merrick? Like, who gives a damn? You know what I mean? Like oh, he was smoke, or he was like, stop. There is so, like, as the episode was going on and Merrick died, but then the episode kept on going and more interesting stuff was happening, I was like, it is so hilarious that so many people cared that much about what this, like, no-name Inquisitor was about, and the show is delivering so many more interesting, more important things, like, moments later. You know, so it's like, okay, who gives a damn about Merrick? That was so funny that happened. Anyways, so yeah, I was, you know, I had a couple predictions. I was right about some things, wrong about some others. I thought we were going to see Thrawn. I thought Sabine actually was going to do a Force push, or at least move something, and she didn't. So they really are kind of, you know, can Sabine use the Force or not? They're really kind of dragging that out. I have to imagine that by the end of the show, she's gonna do something. They would not be building it up this long and not eventually let her do something, you know, so it'll probably be like a last minute life-saving thing, and she'll move something and everyone's gonna be like, oh, she did it, you know, she finally moved something. So I imagine it's gonna be one of those. And yeah, I don't know what next episode's gonna be, you know, like, we now have some of the main characters in a different galaxy, literally a different galaxy, like a different franchise could exist in that galaxy. And you know, they're gonna see Thrawn or Ezra, or who knows what's gonna happen. And then you have Ahsoka in a different dimension, the world between worlds. So now you just have people in different places entirely. In this one episode, everything's split up. Different galaxy over here, different dimension, world between worlds, talking to a not ghost Anakin over here. And then you have Hera, who's gonna land with Carson Teva, find Hu Yang, and be like, so what the hell happened here? Where is everybody? You know, and Hu Yang doesn't know. He's just gonna be like, they just kind of went into the forest and they didn't come back. There was a lot of loud noises, and I don't know where they went. Everyone's gone. Ahsoka's not here. Sabine's not here. But they're all gone in very different places and different distances away. Yeah, just, God, guys, this show, man. And it's funny that, like, if I haven't felt this way in a long time, and I continue to say this, in that this feels so much like a story of Star Wars that has always existed. You know, it feels like this was written a long time ago, and we're only just now being told about it. Like, it was sitting on the back shelf somewhere and someone found it, like, oh, this old Star Wars story was written a long time ago, look at that. I don't know how to describe it, you know, in that it's not even, like, yes, part of it is definitely like the fanboy nostalgia, like, oh, world between worlds, Anakin, like, part of it is definitely that, right? But it's being done in the right way, and I think that's, like, the big difference. It's like, it would be so easy to do this in a cheap, unfulfilling kind of way to just like show you Anakin and be like, okay, there, you happy, you know? And you know, this franchise has done that before, where they'll kind of show us little nostalgic things and be like, do you remember this? Are you happy that you saw this? Okay, can we move on? You know, whereas this, it's like, it's given its proper build up, and it's given like its exact amount of execution, and it doesn't feel cheap. Like honestly, like if Merrick had turned out to be Star Killer or some weird version of Star Killer, that would have felt pointless, meaningless, because this is just a Inquisitor that we've never met before this point. He doesn't mean anything to any of our main characters that we know of. So what would that reveal mean? It would mean nothing, right? So like I guess that's kind of what I'm trying to convey. A reveal like that would be just as nostalgic and just as fanboy pleasing, right? But it wouldn't mean anything. It would be worthless. It would be like a dumb reveal, you know? But this, it makes sense. Like it feels like this is exactly how it would happen, right? Like you use your logic to it. Like, yeah, this feels like the kind of mystical fantasy. You have questions. Some of them will be answered. Some of them won't be answered because the mystery is kind of part of it. You know, like, oh man, I'm just really happy with this show, guys. Wow. You know, and that's, I guess that's my thing, is that like when it comes to other shows like Kenobi and Andor and Boba Fett and stuff like that, like all those shows had great things in them, but I feel like there were genuine criticisms that you could, like, you know, not to say there aren't any here, but there were a lot of like structural criticisms you could point at and be like, there's fundamental things about the show that sometimes don't work necessarily, but there also is a lot of fun things, you know? Whereas this one, it feels like structurally, like the building of this show, you know, the building blocks, the blueprints, the you know, like the foundation is more solid than it's been before, you know? Like everything was more thought out. The way that the show is being paced, the episode, the storyline, everything's intentional. Nothing feels like it's kind of just happening to happen because we kind of just had to have another episode. So here's some stuff that happened, I guess. You know, like this, everything feels like a real story that everyone really thought about. And not to say that, you know, those other shows don't have that, but just that this one feels more so, I guess. That's the best I can say it. Anyways, man, I'm just really happy. Like, I'm just really happy. They're doing the things I wanted to happen, but they're doing it in a really good way and not like in a stupid way. And that's like the most important part, you know, because I could get these same things, but if they were done in the wrong way, then it would like lose all power, and it's working. Anyways, let me know what you guys thought about Ahsoka Episode 4. How many questions you guys got? I have a lot of questions. Lots of questions. Do you care about Merrick at all? Did the fact that he was a smoke guy and not any... Does any of that matter at all? Like by the time you got to the end of the episode, are you still even thinking about Merrick? I would imagine most people are not, because it was so unimportant. Wow. Okay. I'll see you guys on the next episode. Bye.